Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I am doing my monthly reading wrap up, which I can't believe we're already at another month doing another end of month reading wrap up. We're going to talk about all the books that I read in September. I actually thought September would be one of the months where I read the least amount of books because of just, you know, things that were coming up, things that were so busy. Obviously I got engaged, I was away for my birthday, I was in Paris, I was traveling, so I didn't think that I would read that many books, but we did end up reading like a really good amount. So we read 17 books and we're gonna sit down and go through all the books, my thoughts, reviews, opinions, etc. like usual. So get ready to have a yap, make yourself a tea or coffee, get comfortable, get cozy, because we are gonna talk a lot. But before we jump into the books that we read in the month of September and what we did, I just wanted to take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Linjer. I have worked with them in the past in one of my book shopping videos, so you've probably already heard of them from that video and are quite familiar with them. But if you haven't seen that video, if you've not seen me talk about or wear their pieces before, or this is the first time you're ever clicking on my channel, Linjer are one of my favorite accessories brands, and they're the only jewelry brand that I have actually shopped from in the last year. I like elegant and sparkly gold jewelry that's really high quality and doesn't tarnish. So the rings that I'm always wearing, like this beautiful chunky gold ring here and this one here on my other hand, are both from Linjer. And the earrings that I wear every day, I have these little gold hoops, wear them every single day. So Linjer's mission is to empower women through luxe sustainable jewelry at fair price points, and they use sustainable materials like gold and silver. So if you're not like a gold girly like me, don't worry, they've got you covered with silver. And they keep their prices low by selling directly to customers, which helps everyone to be able to invest in long-lasting beautiful pieces of jewelry and accessories that make you feel great but also do less harm to the planet. They only use fine metals like solid gold, sterling silver, and gold vermeil. Gold vermeil is usually what I go for because I love the quality and it's a more affordable option. And they also use lab-grown diamonds, which are guaranteed conflict-free. As well as using, of course, sustainable and recyclable packaging, they also offset carbon emissions for every shipment. So like I said, the rings and earrings and jewelry pieces that I have from them, I like to get in gold vermeil, which uses a sterling silver base, but each piece is plated with a super thick layer of 22 karat gold, which basically means that it's 5 times thicker than any other gold plated jewelry you're gonna get. So it will outlast any of your other standard gold plated pieces of jewelry. And I had first heard of the brand through celebrities wearing them like Millie Bobby Brown, Gigi Hadid, Hailey Bieber. Since I got engaged, I have found that I like to wear more minimal jewelry, especially on my hands, but I always need to have like a ring or two on. So I love these pieces. So if you haven't checked out Linjer today and you want to do so, or you want to have a look at what other pieces they have available on their website, check out the link in the description. I have a discount code which I'm putting on screen right now, and I'll also put all the info down below in the description. And again, a massive thank you to Linjer for working with me on this part of the video. Okay, I hope that gave you enough time to get a drink, get your snacks and everything ready, because we're gonna sit and yap about books. Okay, so we have a lot of books here. I'm just gonna pick one up and go through them. I think we'll start off with The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. I was actually supposed to read this after The Infernal Devices when I had finished that, and I didn't, and then remembered I needed to pick this up, so I went back and picked it up. But I definitely would recommend reading this before starting book 4 in the Mortal Instruments series. It's definitely not essential to read it, like it's not a plot driving story. While it's connected to a bigger storyline and things that are happening in the Mortal Instruments series, it's definitely not like a you have to read this because then nothing else is going to make sense. This does add a lot more context and background and information, and we get a lot of Easter eggs and find out a lot of information and knowledge that if you're just reading the Mortal Instruments series, you find out almost these plot reveals towards the end of the series, whereas in this, as the reader, we find them out before some of the characters in the story does, so then we're clued in more. But also there's so many connections to the Infernal Devices here, and the way that this book links both of the series, and it just makes the world feel bigger and more expansive. And I think I've said that for a novella or like a bonus book, it's definitely like a 4-star rating, but compared to like a normal book, if I'm comparing this to one of the Shadowhunters books, it's more of a 3.5, 3.75 star read. But I had so much fun with it and it was really easy to fly through. So I would definitely recommend reading all of the books in the Shadowhunters world, even the bonus ones like these, because they don't feel like filler. They don't feel like they're not necessary, but if you love the world and you love the characters and you want to live in it a little bit more, or you want more context, you want to know information, you want the world to feel more real, or you want more crumbs of other characters that we've seen through the other series, why wouldn't you want to read it? And then speaking of the Mortal Instruments, I read books 4, 5 and 6. So I have officially completed the Mortal Instruments series. I've read all 6 books and all 3 books in the Infernal Devices, and now this book. So that's 10 books in the Shadowhunters Chronicles, the Shadowhunters world, the universe that I have read. I believe I have 10 more to go. So we're basically halfway through all of the books in the world and the series. And for me, I do think it is a 5-star series. Individually, I did rate, I think, books 4 and 5 4 stars, and then book 6 was 5 stars. And there's just something about an epilogue in the end of a series that Cassandra Clare writes that will just have me in my feels, because the way, again, that she writes and ties the series together, the overall world, the different characters, everything is so intentional and makes so much sense. And then you get the answers for them and you're like, wow, I would have never guessed, but now that you've said it, it's so obvious. A lot of people said to me that the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments are the best and the last 3 aren't as great. I honestly enjoyed them all equally and the same. I still think it's hilarious, one of the main plot points and plot twists and stuff. It gives me a giggle every time, even though it's been around for so many years. I'm not going to say or spoil it for anyone that hasn't read it, but this world, this universe, these series are god tier to me. They are some of my favorites ever and have such a special place in my heart, and I cannot wait to continue reading on with the other ones. When I've read the Infernal Devices, I was like, nothing is ever going to compare or hit as hard, but reading these books in this same world, it is so healing and I love them. The Infernal Devices is still my favorite, but I love these very close to equally as the other ones. Like, they're just incredible. But wow, really had me in my feels. I think if you read City of Heavenly Fire up until the epilogue, then went back and read the Clockwork Princess epilogue, and then after rereading the epilogue in Clockwork Princess, you go and you read the epilogue of this. Yeah, I'm not okay. That was fantastic. I read Wildcard by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th and final book in the Rose Hill series, and I actually think it's my favorite in the series. I don't know why, but I thought that Sebastian was going to be a lot older than he was, just based off, I don't know how he was written in the other books. I was expecting like a really old man, but then getting to know him and being in his head, he's not actually that old, and their age gap isn't actually as big as what I had thought it would be. And I'd seen a lot of people being like, oh, I can't get over this age gap. And I was like, I'm not reading an age gap. Like, I know one's there, but it wasn't feeling like there was a big disconnect between these characters' ages and who they were. They felt very right for each other and balanced out, and it was more their personalities. Like, we definitely have a grumpy ex-Sunshine type of situation going on here with a very grumpy old man. I say old man, he's not even old, just a grumpy daddy. I can't believe I said that, that's so gross. And you know, our Sunshine female main character, I feel like it's was kind of giving like one character's a glass half full, the other is a glass half empty dynamic going on. But I actually did think that this was one of my favorites. This and the first book are definitely my favorite in the series, which is a little bit surprising. I know so many people love Wild Eyes, the second book, but I still think book 1 and book 4 for me are my 2 personal ones. And seeing the little connections between the series, the other series that Elsie has written, and some little like cameos and appearances, which she does, I find, quite well in all of her books and series. She's kind of done breadcrumbs and then spin-offs and minor character crossovers, not like huge ones, but it does make her universe and world that she's writing in a really fun place to be and feel real. But I will say the colour purple in this book was mentioned way too many times. Every time the colour purple came up, I was like, this is giving a little bit overkill. I understand. They're obsessed with the colour purple. But I personally really enjoyed this. The next book is Wrath of the Dragons by Olivia Rose Darling. I read it in a reading vlog. I got goosebumps. Definitely preferred it to book 1. I know a lot of people had comments about book 1. A lot of people didn't like it, or they DNF'd it, and I had spoken to a few people who had read the original indie version and they preferred the indie version to the trad version. And I guess it's one of those books where when I'm reading it in the moment, I'm like, this is just a fun time, but I'm not really looking too deeply into the logistics of things. So things that might seem really far-fetched or you don't actually know how that's possible. Like it's written in a way where some people seem to question like, how are they actually doing that? How are they getting there? How is this situation happening? I'm like, when you pull it apart like that, I can see the criticism and understand it. But personally, when I'm reading it, I'm very invested in the story and the two characters. And this is not an enemies to lovers, it's a reluctant allies to lovers story. But for me, one of the things that I love so much in this story is the characters, especially our main male character, and the love that he feels for the FMC and how he shows it and how he's so proud of it and not afraid to put himself out there like that. I just think it's so special. There's just something different about it for me. But also the dragons. I was hoping that with the first book, Fear the Flames, you know, it's this dragon heist story. And I was hoping we get more dragons in it. And we did end up getting more dragons in this. And I loved that. I loved the element of dragons. I loved the way we started to see more of the dragons and their individual personalities. And I think that's a big part of why I really love this story, is because we had more dragons. But the ending did catch me off guard. I thought we were headed in one direction with the plot and I was shocked with where it went, and then I had goosebumps, and even still thinking about it to this day, I'm really surprised. But I don't know, book 2 felt like such a level up and a big step up from book 1 that I'm really intrigued to see where book 3 goes, because I believe it is supposed to be a 4-book series. So 4 books feels like a good amount for the series and what we still have to do plot wise. I'm really excited now for book 3 to see where that goes, because I think that will help solidify for me if this is like a series that I really love and enjoy, or if it's like a hit and a miss type of series where not all the books hit for me, or I don't know. That's just my current thoughts on that. But I did really love book 2. If you enjoyed book 1, you're really gonna enjoy book 2. And if you didn't enjoy book 1, I would still give book 2 a chance. I'd give it a chance to see if maybe it was the indie to trad publishing re-editing and, you know, situation that didn't work for you. But book 2 actually, I did feel like was written better. So I would say don't completely write it off until maybe you've tried to give book 2 a chance, or you've read that, because again, I do think book 2 was a lot better than book 1 and I had so much fun with it. In my book club, we read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. My book club is hosted on Fable. It is free to join. Anyone can join. You just have to follow the link in my description or search up my club, which is called What We're Reading. And once a month we'll pick a fantasy or fantasy romance book to read for that month together. And we've been trying to read The Poppy War for over a year. It's been in almost every poll, so it finally won. I wanted to see what the hype was about it. It was my first R.F. Kuang book. Obviously she's just released Catabasis, and R.F. Kuang is written in so many different genres, and every time I see interviews of R.F. Kuang, I'm like, oh, I love what she's saying and I love her messaging and telling people to read and read diversely. And her approach to reading and writing from the interviews I've seen is, I just think, is quite mesmerizing. So I really wanted to read one of her books, and this is, I think, is this like a special edition? I don't know what specific special edition it is, but for these beautiful illustrations and sprayed edges. And I'm gonna just adjust the camera there because I needed to readjust my sitting position. But I actually read it on Kindle because I found out that it was on Kindle Unlimited, and it's the first book in a trilogy. And for so much of the book, like the first 60%, I loved. I flew by. We were jumping through time quite quickly. The pacing of the book isn't completely consistent. It's quite fast at some points and then slower at others, but I personally didn't mind it at all. I think it worked quite well for the storyline and world building and the background of what we were getting. But we're following our main female character, Rin. Rin just has aura. That's the only way I can describe her. Really liked this story, but I do think I liked the first half better than the second half, and does get quite dark and graphic because we are dealing with a war. And I think stories like this are important to read, but I would definitely check the trigger warnings because it might not be the read for everyone. It's an epic high fantasy. I am very excited to continue it, and for someone who is very intimidated by this type of book and is more intimidated by epic fantasy stories compared to, say, a romantasy, I did feel like the language in this and the way that it was written was very easy to understand. I thought that maybe the language used might be a bit more pretentious or literary, maybe a little bit more flowery, and it wasn't. It was quite simple and straightforward, and I really appreciated that because it made me get into it. And then I just binged the book and I couldn't put it down, and I had a really good time with it. So I definitely want to try and pick up book 2 soon because I am going back into my binge reading era. I want to try and read series as close together as I can and not stretch them out so I can complete series that I've started, but because it is a heavier topic and themes and war, I do need to read some lighter books in between. I read Real by Kennedy Ryan. This was my first Kennedy Ryan book and I loved it. I love the way she writes. You can tell she does so much research into the topics and themes that her characters go through, but I love stories about Hollywood and show business, and we're following a main female character who is debuting in New York and Broadway on this show as an understudy, and gets a famous director is sat in the show that night and he sees our main female character perform and goes, she's gonna be cast in my Hollywood movie that's coming up where I'm about to make her a superstar. That's who I've been looking for. And she's swept up away from New York to Hollywood and is thrown into this movie production, and her life basically changes overnight. So we're following her in this new world while also dealing with this forbidden attraction between her and this director. But it was way more emotional than I thought it was going to be, especially towards the end. I feel like the first half I was giggling, I was like loving the vibes, and the second half it got quite intense emotionally. And representation of our main female character struggles with lupus, and we explore quite a lot of that in this story, and I learned so much that I had no idea about lupus. And I have been told that Kennedy Ryan writes about a lot of different things in her stories, and she goes into a lot of depth and research, like I said, with these things. So I have been told that she has many other books that people say are better than this, but I really enjoyed this. So I'm really excited now to go into the world of Kennedy Ryan and pick up her books. I know she's got some series, interconnected series, but if you have any Kennedy Ryan recommendations, or if there are any other standalone of hers that I can read in between series. I don't want to commit to any new series, even interconnected series at the moment, but let me know in the comments. I read The Rebel and the Rose by Catherine Doyle, which is the second book in the City of Phantom series. This is already out in the UK, but I believe it might not be out in the US. I think some people were commenting saying that it wasn't out for them yet, but it's out in the UK. It came out in September, and I do think that this was better than book one. I did really enjoy book one, but I think book two was a stronger follow-up, and it has one of my favorite fantasy things that happens in the story when it comes to a magic system and a belief system, I guess you could call it. But because again it is the second book in a series, I can't really say too much without spoilers, but it's also definitely more of an upper YA, like it's not suitable for like a 12 or a 13-year-old, because there is some more adult content. We're following late teens who are very close to entering adulthood, and we have an assassin and a thief and love, magic and betrayals. It's definitely a romantasy, but there's a lot of plot happening in this. I would say it's not a big character focused story. It has a lot of plot happening, so they're not characters that I find myself thinking about a lot and often, or fully like connecting to, because the story is the biggest part of the book, and like the plot and the action and where it's going. I think it's definitely a plot driven story, if that makes sense. I read Soul Searching by Lila Sage. This was like a paranormal romance, and the elements of magical realism in this, I guess you would call it, through like the paranormalness, because it's set in a normal world, but our main female character can see ghosts. So there's some elements of magic there, but there's no like fantasy magic in it. It's definitely a paranormal contemporary romance. But the vibes of this are perfect to read at this time of year. Very autumnal, very dark, very smoky and gritty. Very different vibe to her cowboy romance series. That's a lot more like lighter and fluffier, but I thought it would maybe be a bit darker in terms of like the paranormal elements, or maybe it'd be a bit scary. I'm not someone who likes to watch scary movies or ghost movies, but I loved this and it wasn't. I also found the dynamic and the characters themselves to be very interesting, because they were different to other characters that I read a lot of in romances. Like she kind of like flipped the roles, reversed it. Our female main character is the more grumpy, shut off character, and our main male character is more shy and introverted and overthinks things. So I really enjoyed reading about something different, and I do think that her writing in this was probably one of the best that she's had done so far. Like if I compare this to the first book of hers that I read, it's like night and day. but still really fun stories. I read People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young. I just can't get over how beautiful this cover is. It's so autumnal and perfect. Personally, I love this. It is spicy though. It's spicy from the jump. The plot and premise of this is to do with spice. It's in the blurb. So if you don't like that and like more of a slower burn, then it might not be for you. But personally, I really like this. I liked the characters. I liked the storyline. I really liked our female main character. I connected with her. I've read this and I've also read Out on a Limb, but I haven't read her other books. So I'm definitely going to be going back and reading more of Hannah Bonham Young's other stories, because I definitely think she is an author for me. Just the way she writes and her character and her banter, I can just tell that she's so funny. She's so witty and clever, and it comes through the humor, but there's still deeper emotional themes and topics explored that give the characters and the story depth, which I love and I also need in a romance every now and again. So I did really enjoy this, and I personally also liked it just as much as I liked Out on a Limb. I read the Briar series, all of them. I gave book 1, The Chase, 3.75 stars, book 2 and 3, 4 stars, and then book 4 was a 2-star read for me. I didn't enjoy book 4. I was enjoying book 4 up until the very end, but it's a spin-off for the Off-Campus series. It's college sports romance, hockey. It's quite cheesy. It's very, I don't know, I think when you think of like college ice hockey sports romance, Elle Kennedy is what I think of, and I think it's very much that. I don't know if I'm just maybe older, a bit older. I think maybe if I was younger, 18, 19, and reading these books, I would be devouring them and loving them. But I don't know, I find myself wanting a little bit more at times, but then again at the same time these books themselves are a few years old. But I did actually prefer some books in this series to the Off-Campus series. It was mainly just the 4th book. The 4th book was going so well, and then it just went so wrong. I don't know, the plot, it started to become really unbelievable to me. I didn't understand what was happening. I hate miscommunication. We were having constant miscommunication. I felt like we were getting through a scene and then something else would happen. I'd be like, we've just done this and now we're going through it again. And then I felt like the book could have ended, and then it just kept going. So that kind of tainted the overall series and experience for me. But again, the first 3 books I enjoyed and I liked. So it's kind of frustrating that the overall experience, it kind of came down to that. But I don't know if I'm gonna read her other series. I don't know if some of the ratings I've seen, I just don't know if I even bother with that. Let me know. But I do really like my Elle Kennedy books. I think they're definitely more guilty pleasure, cheesy books for me to read. Not my favorite, but also not the worst that I have read. I listened to an Audible original audiobook of The Anatomy of Us. I believe it's free to listen to on Audible if you have an Audible account, and I needed something to listen to while I was, you know, doing some tasks and things around the house. So I chucked this on. It's set in Edinburgh, in a hospital between male and female character who work in 2 different departments in this hospital. Oh my goodness. The whole point of the story in the book is to show that, like, even characters that you think are perfect or are perceived as the sexiest person you've ever seen before and all that, it's showing actual messy love and how imperfect and flawed things are and how quickly they can go to shit, essentially. Our main female character was definitely a hot mess, and there were so many times and points where I wanted to shake her. Like, I genuinely wanted to shake her. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you thinking like that? If that was one of my friends, I would have to say something. So many of the situations I was like, girl, you're just digging yourself in deeper. I actually found it quite fun to get that involved in the story. I was like, I had these headphones on, I had to stop so many times to be like, what is she doing? So it was definitely entertaining. It's not my favorite story I've listened to, but also it was quite short. So if you're looking for like a shorter audiobook to get into, I also really enjoyed the narration of this. For me, it's like a 3-star listen. And then finally, I read On Thin Ice by Olivia Bell. This book is not out yet. It's coming out next year, but as soon as I heard about the book, when I saw that it was being published and the plot premise about it, I was so down, because again, I love glitz and glamour, I love showbiz, I love stories like that. So this was following our main female character, who is a figure skater for like a Stars on Ice show, and she is being paired up on this season of the show with a bad boy of Hollywood who left the US a few years ago to move to the UK and kind of hasn't been seen since, but now he's trying to get back into acting and get back out there, and his agent is trying to help him like fix his reputation, so he gets paired up with our female character who is pretty much like a squeaky clean good girl, doesn't get into drama, has no issues, and they have to work together, but their personalities clash so much because they are very different people and they do not like each other, and they've got to try and figure out a way to win the show or like get through being partners with each other, because they both have their own reasons for wanting to do this and to make it quite fast, so they kind of got to figure out a way to work with each other. But I love shows that show you behind the scenes of like a TV show or a movie, of show business and PR and things like that. It's something that I love to read. I think because I consume so much pop culture and media growing up that it's just always going to be like a topic of interest and I find so fascinating. So I love the setting. I also really like the characters. Individually, I connected to different parts of both of them and I could see their sides for so many of the things, which I usually don't. I'm usually like on team one character or the other, but for both of them I could connect and relate to both of them, and I wanted them both to grow and develop and work through things, and seeing them do that individually and together, honestly, it was such an incredible read. I'm very excited to see this book come out and for other people to read it and see what everyone else thinks about it. But I'm also excited to see what the author does next, because it was honestly just a really great story, and I think it's her debut as well, which is just incredible. So that was a 4.5 star read for me, and I really loved that. I believe they are all the books that I read. That's all, that should be all of them. What a month. I have yapped for so long now. This is gonna need a lot of editing and cutting down, but that brings us to the end of another month. I can't wait to see what we read in October. I have some fun reading vlogs planned. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, comment below a book emoji. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.